Hi all, this is Jackie, your librarian again, and we're just going to follow up with going on to question 4 on page 2 of your handout, where we're looking at CQ Researcher and opposing viewpoints. I'm actually in opposing viewpoints right now, but you'll probably remember how to get there. In case you don't, from the college homepage, Blue Mountain, you'll click Library, you'll click on Library Databases, Top Library Databases, and opposing viewpoints is right there. And so with opposing viewpoints, as you'll probably remember, there's a couple different ways to use it. You can browse down and you can pick a major theme, like obviously here business and economics, science, technology, ethics, society and culture, any of these, and browse through. Again, they always list a top 3, but you can browse through and see what else is there. So as far as something that might be interesting to you. Something that somebody brought up today in class, I thought was interesting. We could try using it here under athletes and sports, but their particular topics seem to be more about team sports players and the idea of how they have to present themselves. Can they be themselves, or do they have to have this staged? What are the athletes' role as being role models or not? It's kind of a big issue. So we can look and see if there's anything under athletes and sports. Definitely one way to do it. A lot of this, of course, is talking about, it looks like drug use, political protest, and that sort of thing, salaries. So again, there's probably more in here. The association between coach and teammate injunction might be interesting. So we could, again, browse through, see if there's anything under the viewpoints. But, if you're not finding anything, there's 2 things to think about. There's one is that this might not be the best database to answer your topic. Your topic might have such nuance and, research that doesn't necessarily fit into a box. You might be ready to move on to a new database. But if you're not sure, you can always go ahead and do a keyword search. And so this student, in thinking about that phrasing, if we think about our concepts, was really looking at the idea of sportsmanlike conduct in some ways, I think is what it would probably be called. You can see there's sportsmanlike right here, but also what comes up immediately, of course, is unsportsmanlike. So looking at sportsmanship, unsportsmanlike behavior. So if this is a really subject that's being looked at, that's something to consider. So I'm going to start with sportsmanlike, but if I'm not finding what I'm looking for, I'm going to go back and try some of these other things. So when I click on sportsmanlike, in this case doing a keyword search, we can see there's a couple different things that come up. We have an academic journal, audio, news reports, magazine reports. The results are a little bit different than, of course, when we just do the other type of search where we follow those breadcrumbs. It takes us right into content. So this might be interesting, our sportsmanlike local hero. That might tie into the role model idea, might be worth looking at. Murdoch unlikely to be sportsmanlike in TV fight. This looks like it's actually not talking about sports. It's taking that phrase, sportsmanlike, and using it in other situations. Nothing is really striking to me here, so like I said, I'm going to go back and try the unsportsmanlike and see if something else comes up. Okay, let's see what unsportsmanlike is like. Let's see if we get anything more here. Okay, oh well, there's quite a few more, and one of them is specifically this idea of should professional athletes be considered role models or not? And so a lot of the question is, with athletes, are they in a sense the hero perhaps that we see, or are they, just human beings as well? And so what does that really look like? So that one might be quite interesting. As we browse down, we can see there's more. There's a ton in the news, 653 news in the news, so we could click there and browse all of those. But then we can see there's a little bit more from unsportsmanlike conduct, and then also more about exploiting college athletes. So what does that mean? That's kind of interesting. Again, we can look and click more and see what those 15 are about, but here's something else foul play. So if we're looking at the issues of, how do athletes need to be expected to behave, we can do that. Going back to this first one, because that really seemed to catch my eye as being related to this topic, is some of the things, what are some of the questions you might want to consider? And really then looking at other topics, are these athletes professional role models? Where do they fit into professional sports? And it gives you some good ideas of where else you might want to look. And again, this was a topic that didn't bring up, many results right away, but this is why you might definitely want to look at where they got a hold of their information and follow up on that. So where there's a couple different topics here that might be really interesting. It's bad behavior ruining American sports. So that's really kind of interesting. They actually got that from CQ Researcher, the other database we looked at. So that's something to consider. Going back to larger topics. So I know somebody else was very interested in, let's go back to browse issues here. This is all of them. If we look at a really big topic such as someone was looking at high school dropouts and where that could be coming from. So that could fall into education, but at this point, if there's some things going on that we need to do some school reform, school funding, something to keep in mind. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and click on school reform, just to remind you what this looks like. So again, they'll give you an overview of the topic, and it might have some other ideas. If we click on more, if there's anything else going on that we might want to take a look at, high school dropouts. Wow, there's a whole section on opposing viewpoints on high school dropouts to discuss this. So through those couple links of browsing through, we found the exact topic page we might need. So again, as I pointed out in class, there's viewpoints, there's featured viewpoints, statistics, academic journals. They always list a top 3. There's audio, these great NPR articles, if you like listening to those. You can certainly do that, or interviews. And other issues, Dropout Factory, schools declining across the nation. This was just published. So if we found one that we are interested in, I'll just go down here, for example. Again, we have the entire article. We can email it to ourselves. We can download. And this is a very short one, but it might have that great statistic that you need to highlight in your paper. And what you might see is that these are pointing from these reports. This is something you might want to take a look at and say, well, this article is short, but you know what? I might be really interested in getting more information on this research done by Johns Hopkins University. And go ahead and pop that into Google and see what comes up. So that's opposing viewpoints in a real quick nutshell. And going back, CQ Researcher again from our library databases, top library databases, CQ Researcher. Again, a kind of a breadcrumb type of database. You can browse by topics. And so if you're interested in, well, let's see if we can find anything on the athletes here. We can certainly do that. But you can see it goes through a bunch of different avenues to explore. The breadcrumb works sometimes it doesn't. So I'm looking more specifically under sports and recreation. We might want to see if there's something in here. NFL controversies. Okay, that seems like something would definitely come up related to sports and role models and that sort of thing. Let's just look at that. NFL controversies. Can pro football remain the nation's #1 sport? Well, that's something. But, the other thing that comes up over here is the business of sports, which somebody was talking about. That, could be a way to look at that topic of, role models. I mean, is the fact that athletes have to be role models. Is that something that makes a difference to, censoring what people say or not say? Is that part of the branding? And so instead of being just an athlete, you're part of a brand. And what does that mean to be part of a brand? And that sort of thing. So, but again, I think it's a great overview database. It gives you that great introduction. It gives you that overview. And for the assignment, we saw the pros and cons. So you might want to look specifically, if you're going to answer question 4, you might click on the pro-con topic and say, well, what's the question they ask? Can football retain its appeal if it's made significantly safer? That was a huge topic. I remember that one. And look at the pro and con. or in opposing viewpoints, you might want to put those two questions there. So again, browse through. If you do use an article from CQ Researcher, the Cite Now feature, that's the reminders right there. It defaults to APA, so you just click here to get to your MLA citation for this class. So that's CQ Researcher in a nutshell. Again, if you did find yourself more interested in the business and sports, you can certainly go ahead and do that. And are greedy owners and players hurting pro leagues? Kind of an interesting question. How does that affect sports? So something to keep in mind. All right, so that's it for this section here. As you move on to page 3 in your assignment, question number 5, that's just some possible things that now that you've done a little bit of research, you might be able to really answer some of these questions. So the who's involved, we've been asking that from the get-go. So who are the key stakeholders? Well, in the case of athletes, it's both the athletes, it's probably the audience, it's probably the owners, the coaches. If you're in sports, if you're looking at a particular group, you might want to limit to college or professional sports, and then you might want to pick a sport or two. You might want to see what are the issues, what's going on, of course, and who's being affected. And you might want to consider some of the topics that I wrote down. Is there an ethical impact? Is there something psychological, social, economic? And get a sense of where things are happening. It can be a big deal. Why, and then if there is a possible solution should things be changed. So this is just our quick second tutorial, and we'll do a third one to get you through that more advanced database of Academic One file.